Hi guys, Annabelle here from Horizon Cosplay, and today you might be wondering why I'm dressed like a 90s fashionista. Oh, easy explanation for that, and that is these. So these, guys, are fabric panels from the 90s. Now this one I found in the charity shop, and this one I ordered online, but they're exactly the same. And they are to make, let me unfold it and show you, these cute little giraffe toys. Now we all know that I'm not exactly the kind of person who just randomly makes stuff. So why am I making giraffe toys? Well, that is because one of my friends is pregnant with twins, and so that's why I have two of them. They like vintage things. I think 90s counts as vintage by now. It's been quite a while since then, I do believe. And so we're gonna give these a go and make them, and they are super, super cute. And honestly, I kind of want to make myself a matching dress, but I don't think I'm gonna have enough fabric for that. However, I can dream, and until then, let's get started. So this is one of the panels all laid out, and as you can see, there are quite a few pieces, but it's actually really cute. I love this little safari print pattern that we've got going on just here. It is so adorable. And the matching, I don't really think you can call it checkers, like chain link fence pattern, also really cool. And one thing I love about this panel, which you don't get with a lot of panels, is that we have a whole lot of instructions on the fabric, which is adorable. I love it. So I started cutting out the two ginger giraffes, as the panel called them. Though personally, I don't see any orange, but maybe their name is just supposed to be ginger? Anyway, I used some new butterfly pins I'd brought from a charity shop to mark any pieces labelled left and right. So blue is right and pink is left, which means that I am organised. So I don't know why, but I find this unreasonably funny, but this piece right here, which I think is the giraffe's nose, is called a head gusset. Yes, a gusset for your head. I don't know, sounds dodgy to me. The first instruction was to cut out the main strips along the printed lines. But is it just me, or is there no printed lines? So I got out my trusty ruler and just drew on the lines on the wrong side of the fabric before cutting them out. I then folded each piece in half and pinned them down before taking them to the sewing machine and giving them an overlock along the sides. And while I do that, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and maybe check out my Ko-Fi while you're at it. The link is down below, and every donation goes straight back into creating content for this channel, which is amazing and fun, and I love you guys for supporting me, so thank you very much. Each piece was then turned inside out using the advanced sewing tool known as a chopstick. Beware of this one though, if you're doing this yourself, it can be a bit pokey. Having said that, it was so hard that it took me nearly 20 minutes to do just two of the pieces, at which point Ben took over, only for me to study and then steal his technique before insisting on doing the last pieces myself because I am obviously a strong and independent woman. They were then pressed flat before getting top stitched around the edges to keep them flat and in place because, well, honestly I just thought it would look neater. And at this point, if you're enjoying this video, remember that you can get updates on all the videos I am filming right now on my Discord, where we have the most lovely little community going on, and I would love for you all to join it. The link is in the description below if you wanted to have a look, and yep, that's about all the self-plugging that I wanted to do today, so let's carry on. Okay, so all of the little bits for the mane have been pressed, top stitched down. They look really good. I think using black thread definitely makes them look really nice. However, according to the instructions, we are supposed to be tying these in knots. Now, one thing I've just realized is that folded in half, they're about the length I would expect the mane to be, but if we tie it in a knot, they're going to be really short and not look very good. Maybe that means I cut them out the wrong way, but doesn't really matter. The point is we need to fix this. So my conclusion is we have some black wool here, which is left over from when I was doing a bunch of wool embroidery for, I don't even know, something. And we're gonna fold it over, I think about 5 times, and use this to tie a knot, create our little bow like that. We're then going to stitch it onto the giraffe through this center knot to hold it all in place, at which point I'm then going to trim these ends and brush them out a little bit to give them a bit of a curly look. And then that way our giraffe has a little bit of thread for mane as well as fabric. So with that, I need to cut out all these pieces, tie them on so that they're all ready to attach when and as we get to that step. let's get going.
I then got going tying all of the wool onto the main bits of the mane. I'll trim the wool and brush it out later once it's sewn on. Next up on the instruction list was to start the ears. For this, I pinned them onto some wadding, double layering it as it was rather thin. Then I took the whole strip over to the sewing machine and stitched around the curve of the ear. Once that was done, I then turned them right way around before running a stitch along the base of the ear. After that, I folded the ear and tacked the fold down by hand. Then it was onto the horns. For this, I folded each piece in half and then ran a stitch around the edge before turning those inside out too, which is when the most tragic of tragedies befell me.
No! My chopstick just broke! It's my favourite chopsticks.
What's wrong?
I broke my chopstick and I'm sad.
As I dealt with this severe emotional blow, I took my anger out at the unjust world by tearing up the excess wadding and stuffing it into each horn with the now broken chopstick, before abandoning my damaged instrument to sew the bottom of each horn closed, all the while holding back tears of, well, loss, sadness. I was mourning my favourite chopstick. After that, I pinned and then stitched the two halves of the body together, and then it was finally time to install that weird head gusset. I also want to mention here that I couldn't find anywhere on the instructions where it specified seam allowance for this, so I was just going with a 1 centimeter because every other panel I have from the 90s, which is quite a few at the moment, subscribe if you want to see more, does seem to specify that. Then it was time to attach those ears and horns. I turned the head the right way around to pin and position them before turning it inside out again and stitching the seam. Honestly, I was not confident that this was going to come out okay, so I only did one before whizzing through the other straight after when it actually looked surprisingly good. Then it was just to sew up the base and the body was done, and they could be officially turned right side around. Next, it was time to commit a heinous act: decapitating a pillow. I'm so sorry guys, but it just had to be done. I got lucky here as my local charity shop was giving away free pillows with every purchase, so I had grabbed 3. Now don't worry, I did wash the pillow before using it in these toys, just in case it had any weird stuff in. It was then cut open and its insides were transferred into that of the Giraffe. As it had been through the washing machine, a lot of the pieces were almost felted into chunks, so I made sure to tear them up a bit before stuffing them in place using my broken chopstick again, which I'm still a bit annoyed about and upset, but you know what, we'll move on. I'm sure I'll get a new set of chopsticks eventually. It will happen, hopefully, at some point. All that was left after that was to hand stitch the neck closed. This was a little harder than I thought it would be, as I'd shoved quite a lot of stuffing in there, but at long last we had a pair, and it was at this point that Ben got upset because I hadn't gotten a third one for us to keep. So at some point, I suppose I'm going to have to make him one. You know, when I can find another one of these things on eBay or something.
So I've actually been working on these cutie pies in between other sewing projects, which means that I should have posted them out probably about 2 weeks ago because, well, the kids therefore were born yesterday. Oops. I was kind of hoping to get them to mum and dad a little bit sooner than that, but absolutely fine. They're still going to be very much appreciated, and I hear that apparently it's quite bad luck to give presents to parents before the kid's born, so I'm just going to go with that as the reason why I haven't posted them yet, and quickly try and get them finished today so that we can post them tomorrow. So, bodies are done, everything's stuffed, now for the arms.
According to the instructions, the arms should be simple. Just fold the pieces I cut out in half and stitch along the edge. Then they needed to be turned right way around, stuffed, the top folded over, gathered and stitched onto the body. And yes, it was definitely that easy, and no, I definitely did not do anything that caused me to unpick one arm several times because it just looked odd. Definitely never happened.
And we have arms! Now we just need to give our giraffes legs, because otherwise, well, they're a bit odd giraffes if they've only got arms, especially because they don't really reach above their heads, so it's not exactly like they can cartwheel away from things. And again, don't you need legs for cartwheels? Maybe they could just handstand away. But it's not standing if they're walking, hand walking. They could hand walk away, but they can't do that because the necks are too long. And you know what, these toys, I'm overthinking it. Let's just make them some legs.
Now the legs had me a little worried because of the round circles on the soles of the feet. But before we get there, I folded the legs in half and stitched them on, leaving the top and bottom open. Then I pinned on that circle sole and oh so carefully stitched it on. and then we gave them a stuff, and it came out okay. Definitely not perfect, but let's just call these imperfections evidence that they are handmade and therefore filled with my good wishes for the kids that they are going to. It was then just a case of stitching these little legs on.
And we have two adorable little giraffes, but there is one problem, and that is that they are both currently naked, and it is not appropriate to be naked in front of children, as we all know. And so, yeah, let's make them some clothes, eh? Sherlock, this project was supposed to be kitten hair free. It's for children. What is this? This is not okay. We've been very strict with not letting you touch this, and now you're laying in the project.
Up until now, I've been doing this step by step according to the fabric instructions, but at this point we just needed to get these babies posted, so I went through the instructions and pinned up everything for the dress and pants I could before sitting down and starting to sew. This began by turning the raw edges over for the dress, sleeves and trousers. I used a very small zigzag stitch for this. Not all of this is perfectly straight, but I wanted it to be super secure, as I know that personally I was always a bit rough with my toys as a kid, so I fully expect these giraffes to go through the walls before they finally get, what's the word? I'm trying to think of it. What is the word? Heritage level? Either way, where you still have toys when you're an adult. That's what I'm trying to say. After that, I sewed up the sides of the trouser legs and sleeves. At this point, I'd just given up reading the instructions, so we were just winging it. But it was looking good. The crotch of the trousers was next, and then it was time to insert the waistband elastic.
And the giraffes finally have trousers! And now that they have pants, cute little checkered pants, which are utterly adorable. The waistband in this one of them, went a little bit dodgy, but nothing that I couldn't fix. And just look at how cute they are. I love it. So now that they've got trousers, they just need trousers. No, they don't need more trousers, they need a shirt. We're gonna make them a shirt, or a dress, depending on your definition.
We started by pinning and then sewing on the sleeves. These were quite awkward to do, and I wasn't sure how they were going to come out, but actually I was really happy with the results. Then I took the two collar pieces and pinned them in half. I decided to top stitch the folded seam to help hold it in place, but honestly if I hadn't been lazy and had just ironed it instead, it probably would have been fine. These collars then got attached to the dress. I put a few box pleats in the dress as it was longer than the collar and I couldn't be bothered to gather it when it was going to have elastic anyway. I then halved my seam allowance and sewed them wrong side spacing before flipping the collar over and pinning it down right side spacing to create a little baby French seam that would open at both ends. I also doubled my seam allowance for this part as I stitched it on. I then attached some elastic to the bobby pin and passed it through the French seam before pinning it in place. Next, I pinned and stitched together the back seams, and that, my friends, was the dress done.
So Ben, what do you think of the giraffes now that they have dresses?
I didn't know they were girls to begin with, but it's pretty cool.
The only thing left to do on them is to give them both a mane. A mane as in like hair, not as in a name, because the kids they're going to will hopefully name them themselves.
Yeah, the only thing you have to do is stitch the mane up the back of the head, but that shouldn't be too difficult.
No.
But I mean, yeah, no, for something that was designed in the 80s.
They're pretty cute. To be honest, I
Pretty
actually think I
adorable.
prefer them without the dresses.
I'm kind of 50-50 about it, because I kind of like how, like, cute it is. It's actually quite adorable.
They are absolutely adorable. Alright, well I suppose I better get sewing the mane on.
Definitely.
We then sat down to play D&D, and while playing I stitched on the giraffes' manes by hand. This was a bit fiddly, and I kind of wish we had a few more mane pieces because it didn't go nearly as far down the mane as I really wanted. But once it was all stitched on, I trimmed the loops of the wool, and that was the last thing that was on the list to do. And they turned out so freaking cute. I think Ben is right, we might just have to get ourselves one because oh my gosh, these toys are just utterly adorable. And you know what guys, you are some very lucky children to have these. I am just slightly jealous.
And with that guys, the ginger giraffes are done, though I don't think they're looking very ginger, but you know what, I'm not gonna judge. And oh my gosh, they are so adorable. Just look at these guys. I've got to be honest, I actually think I like them a little bit more without their clothes on, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but you know what, I prefer the naked giraffes. The clothes are super cute, the fabric is adorable, but I just kind of feel like it loses the nice shape of the cuddly toys. The hair turned out really well. I do wish that I had just a bit more of it to go a bit further down their necks, because it does just sit around their head, which is a little bit unfortunate, but overall I really do like it, and I think it is so cute and adorable. Hopefully the twins really enjoy it, and I am going to take these down to the post office first thing tomorrow and send them all the way to Germany, which should be fun. But now that's all finished, guys, it is time for me to say goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, do please hit the like button, and if you want to nerd out with me over sewing, cosplay, history bounding, vintage sewing machines, I do have a Discord. Link is in the description below, and do drop in and say hi. Otherwise, I do sewing videos every single Wednesday, so please hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss anything that's coming up. And until then, have a beautiful day. Bye!